Looking forward to Bob Huttinga, dear friend, been in the Coptic Fellowship, and I still was out in the yard today getting a chuckle to myself about the first time I met Bob and Barb. They had the purple aprons at the Olivet Conference selling raffle tickets, and I thought that was just kind of a neat. I felt like going to a barbecue when I saw them selling the tickets, and the jovial light and laughter and just a good nature of Bob and Barb drew me more so into the Coptic family also. And it's great to have them with us tonight presenting once again. A physician's assistant, certified naturopath, natural health practitioner who still makes house calls in the physical sense and virtually as well. He practices traditional medicine as well as alternative medicine with nutrition, herbs, essential oils, and clinical homeopathy. Owners of the Healing Center in Lakeview, had a chance to go up there. Hope you have as well. It's a wonderful place for energy, for healing, and enlightenment as well. Putting your health in your own hands, a shortcut to success in the paperback form and audio form is available for you. Some of his creative works and a collaboration on also meditation and healing CDs he has available, which are downloadable more so at Bob and Barb's website as well. Looking forward to his topic tonight. Anxiety and depression is his topic.
This winter, we spent a lot of time in Florida and had quite a bit of free time, which I don't normally have when we're here. And so I took an internet course called Brain Health Coaching with Dr. Daniel Amen. Dr. Amen is a psychiatrist from California, and he has been doing brain imaging for the past 30 years. And he has about 120,000 SPECT scan images, which they've used these images to correlate with people's behaviors and issues and things like that. And the course has been extremely helpful in my clinical work. Barb and I decided after listening to that we should go to Chicago to the clinic, and we had our brain scanned there. And it's very interesting findings. It was determined that I have ADD. Now, that's the furthest thing from my mind that I thought, that was something other people had. And at first it was kind of disturbing to acknowledge that and that I had some kind of anomaly, but I've learned how to compensate quite well for that over my lifetime. But it's very fascinating because in the SPECT scan, they did blood flow studies. The first was done in relaxation, and the second one was done during concentration. And there was very obvious reduction in blood flow to my brain when I was concentrating. And it was very eye-opening to see this for ADD kids. When they focus, their brain stops working, and the harder they try, the worse it gets. So just that in itself has been very enlightening and helpful in the work that I do with kids. My topic tonight is about anxiety and depression. And in Dr. Amen's work, he's found that there's about 5 different kinds of depression and 6 different kinds of anxiety. And they all have different looking brain scans. Again, very, very fascinating. We all are experiencing a considerable amount of anxiety associated with the COVID thing that we've had over the last year. I'll just touch on that a little bit to kind of help ease people's minds. We've discovered here at the Healing Center ways to treat this, and it's really quite simple. The biggest problem that causes hospitalization is development of blood clots in the airways in the lungs. And we have developed a homeopathic remedy for this, and also 2 other natural medications that help dissolve blood clots. So since we've been doing that, we've treated about 300 people, and none of them have ended up with low oxygen or need to be hospitalized, and nobody who's used that has died. So just having that knowledge that there are treatments available is very helpful, just because many of us have just experienced this anxiety associated with what we hear in the news and all of the negative stuff that's going on. So anxiety and depression are actually very closely related. These emotions are caused by the changes in neurotransmitters in our body. They're always fluctuating up and down, and these are the ups and downs in our lives. We may feel down for a day or two, we feel elated and almost high some days, and these are all emotions associated with the fluctuations in these neurotransmitters. And the things that influence that are things like the news, grief, loss, family member dies, a person goes through difficulties in a relationship, sometimes just the stress of daily life, conflicts at work, etc. And then sometimes there are frights where something really scares us and frightens us. And then the development of depression is the loss of a neurotransmitter called serotonin. And if your body can't make as much serotonin as you need, you gradually start slipping into this feeling of depression, a lack of joy, loss of interest in the things that you usually find fun and interesting, insomnia or sleeping all the time. People that are depressed often will sleep 10, 12 hours a day. And then often suicidal thoughts come into play. Now, it's actually normal for people to have suicidal thoughts from time to time. And I myself suffered from some depression in the past. I had a mentor, his name was Louis Barbone, and I was talking to him about that one day, that I would have 2 or 3 day episodes of depression. And he said, "Do you go to the bathroom?" And I was kind of confused, wondering what he was asking. And I said, "Well, yeah, of course, I go to the bathroom." And he said, "Well, what would happen to you if you didn't?" "Well, you'd get very sick." And unfortunately, this is what happens to many of us. We don't release the negative emotions and negative thoughts and negative memories, and they begin to build up in our system. And so I became aware of the fact that it wasn't my body that needed to die when I was having these suicidal thoughts. It was some idea, it was some concept, some memory, some part of my thinking that had to be released and removed. And using some techniques that I learned through the Silva method training, I was able to release many of those things. And it's been many, many years since I've experienced depression. But if I hadn't learned how to do that, it would probably still be a problem today. Now, there are multiple neurotransmitters involved in anxiety. And these are things like adrenaline and epinephrine and norepinephrine. And they cause us to have feelings we call fight or flight. So when we are frightened by something, we either want to run away or prepare to fight that. And the things that begin to happen in our body is the production of adrenaline, which then raises blood pressure and heart rate. Blood sugar goes up, respiratory rate goes up, stomach acid increases, muscle tone increases. So we're getting ready to do something to take care of this problem. Sweating increases. And we often have a fear of death that drives us to fight or flight, to preserve ourselves. When we're in this, our thinking has a tendency to predict the worst outcome. So often when we get into an anxious state, we start to not really hallucinate, but we start making up outcomes that are often quite unreasonable. And sometimes we have fears of doing something crazy. It's actually normal for these kinds of weird, strange thoughts to go through our minds. The majority of us do not act on these things, but if we start having feelings of planning to do something, such as suicide, well, then it's a very important signal to get some help. We often begin to avoid places that increase anxiety. There's a word called agoraphobia, and this is fear of public places. I have patients who haven't left their home for years because something happens when they go out into public. And investigation with these people indicate that they quite often are empaths, which means they feel other people's feelings. And I have one patient who actually hears other people's thoughts in her head. And when she goes out into a grocery store, it's like 300 people talking to her all at the same time. It was very, very overwhelming. So we can learn how to close those psychic doors down, and there are definitely ways that people can do this. We often have fear of being judged by others. Dr. Amen talked about the 18-40-60 rule, and that was at 18, we worry about what other people think about us. At 40, we don't give a darn. And at 60, we realize that nobody is really thinking about us, and nobody really cares about us. They're worried about themselves. Now, often people who have anxiety have persistent phobias. And right now we're seeing germ phobias, where people are using excessive hand washing and use of all these hand sanitizers and things like that. It's actually counterproductive to be using hand sanitizers all the time because it kills the good bacteria on your skin, which are part of our healthy defense. But we're seeing wholesale use of these products right now. Low motivation, so don't really feel like doing anything. That goes along with both anxiety and depression. A very quick startle reaction, a tendency to freeze. So something comes up and person just doesn't know what to say or do, and they often will just stand in one place. A lack of confidence in self-decision. Sometimes embarrassment. Often we become overwhelmed very easily. Very sensitive to criticism. Our self-confidence is often eroded, and we become very sensitive. And physically, people with these issues often bite their nails and pick at their skin. So these are things that are happening. Now, what are the solutions to anxiety and depression? Well, one of the things we find is that it's extremely important to get 7 hours at least of sleep a night. So most people need 7, 8 hours. Some people need a little more. Too much sleep at night is probably not a good thing. One of the things that we learned at the Amen Clinic was the use of weighted cooling blankets. Now, I had been familiar with this in autistic kids and the use of these big, heavy blankets. But we're finding that this is also very beneficial in people that have insomnia. And so we're experimenting with this a bit ourselves. Now, something called diaphragmatic breathing can be very helpful if you feel a lot of anxiety. And I'm going to ask you just to go through this with me. The way you do this, you imagine breathing with your diaphragm. So you push your stomach out. So instead of raising your chest like that, you take that deep breath through your diaphragm and you kind of push your stomach out. So deep breath, and then in, draw your stomach in. I'm going to have you do that now. So inhale slowly for about 3 seconds. So count in your mind. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Hold that for 1 second. And now exhale slowly, 6 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold it out. And now inhale again through 1, 2, 3. Hold. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Hold. Exhale very slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. Now just breathe on your own. But anytime you're feeling anxious or even depressed, doing this diaphragmatic breathing with a longer exhale than inhale is highly beneficial to bring some of these neurotransmitters back into alignment. There's also a hand warming exercise that you can do. And if you have biofeedback equipment, this is even more effective. But what I want you to do right now is do this hand warming exercise with me. So just close your eyes and imagine that you're sitting on the beach and you put your hands in the warm sand and feel that as if you're actually there. And when you do this, your hands will actually begin to warm, and there may be like a little tingly feeling or a little vibration in your hands. You can imagine that you have them in warm water, and you just feel much more relaxed as the blood comes out of your head and into your body, down into your hands. So this is something that you can practice on your own. Back when I was teaching the Soba method, I had some students in class who were Aikido masters. And these fellows could create a 8-degree temperature difference between one hand and the other. So we had 2 temperature probes, and they could bring their temperature up in one hand and down in the other, simply by visualizing some activity, like one hand in ice water and one hand in the warm sand. So when we do this, it actually is a distraction of what's bothering and what we're worrying about. And we literally, by warming your hands, you start to recharge some of the neurotransmitters. Now, something else that's really important is to think about what you're thinking. So if you're worried about something, you need to think about that. And there's 4 questions that you should ask. And it's probably a good idea to write these questions down. But when you're thinking about something that's worrisome or creating anxiety, the first question to ask, are these thoughts true? And then the second, do you absolutely know that these are true? So let's say that someone has gone out to the store and they don't come back, and you start worrying that maybe they had an accident, or they're gone in the ditch, or they've had car trouble. So when you ask that question, are these thoughts really true? Well, the answer is no. You don't know that they're true. And then the second one, do you absolutely know that they are true? Again, no. So you begin to take some of the concern out of those thoughts. And then the third question is, what happens? How do you react when you find out that these thoughts really are not true? So it's estimated that about 70% of the thoughts that go through our minds are not true, especially the worry and anxiety thoughts. And then the fourth question is, who would you be without those worry thoughts? So by physically, mentally examining the thoughts that are going through your head, you begin to take that worry and anxiety and tone it down and remove it into something that's much more manageable. And these are ways to reduce what are called automatic negative thoughts. We all have these. Dr. Amen called them ANTS, ANTS, automatic negative thoughts. And if you want to explore his work more, you can go on YouTube and just put in Dr. Amen, and he's got hundreds of YouTube videos on there. And there's one actually, it's a half-hour program on how to destroy the automatic negative thoughts. Now, on a physical level, it's important to limit stimulants. So coffee, caffeine of any kind, chocolate, and decongestant. Some people are taking decongestants for allergies or for colds. Well, these are stimulants. Energy drinks and adrenaline-like activities, so things that make you tend to be excited, create excitogen-type thoughts. It's also really important to avoid anti-anxiety prescription medications. Xanax, Ativan, Valium, these medications can be very addicting. Intermittent use is not that much of a problem, but regular use is actually quite a bit of a problem, because becoming addicted to these, it is very, very difficult, and it takes many months to get off of those kind of medications. Now, there's some supplements that are very helpful. There's one called Gaba. Gaba is an amino acid. It calms down the overfiring of the brain. Magnesium, very important. It has mental and physical applications. Theanine is an amino acid that's found in green tea. And so quite often it's beneficial if you're nervous and anxious to sit down and have a cup of green tea. Now, this can be green tea that's mixed with other herbs. There's a small amount of caffeine in green tea, but not enough to really create overstimulation. And then 5-HTP is also an amino acid that can help with insomnia and difficulty sleeping. Exercise is very important to help us detox out some of the collected chemistry that we've accumulated over the years. Aerobic exercise and muscle strengthening exercise. I wrote a book called A Shortcut to Success, and there's 3 parts to this book. And if you haven't done it already, I'd suggest reading it. If you are suffering from any kind of anxiety or depression, I would read it again, and send me a text if you want to get a copy of the audiobook so you can listen to it if you prefer not to read. But the first part is ways to remove old, outdated programs, things that hold us back. And then the second part is clarification of goals, and then thinking from the future. Now that means you have to think about that goal as if you already have it. And I'll give you a little example. I'll tell you this story about the motorcycle. Sometime in January, I had a dream that I was riding a trike. We have a friend who lives in Montana, and in 2017, at the age of 85, he rode his trike to all of the capitals in the lower 48. He spent 91 days on the road, and he took pictures of all the capitals, and later he drew caricatures of all the Capitol buildings and the sitting governors, and published this kind of cool little book. Anyway, I had a dream that I was riding George's motorcycle. And a couple of weeks after that, a mutual friend sent us a text and said that George had been diagnosed with lung cancer, and he was not going to seek treatment. And I was very sad to hear this news, but it was interesting that I'd had this dream about riding his motorcycle. So in a email conversation with him, he said he would really like to see me have his motorcycle. So I started to make mental movies of Barb and I riding this tricycle, and really enjoying it and thinking about this wonderful man who had accomplished so much and had enjoyed riding this tricycle. So that's really all I did. We just I would every few days make this little mental movie. And then I began to realize that if I was going to acquire this motorcycle, I would have to have a way to get it back from Montana to Michigan. So I was going to need to have a pickup and probably a trailer, although I could borrow a trailer. The little pickup that I had was not going to pull a trailer. And my other car, this little smart car, was certainly not going to be beneficial. And I really didn't need to have 4 vehicles. So I started making images of selling the smart car and the pickup and acquiring a new pickup. And I started looking around and I decided I would like a Nissan Frontier. And there were only 2 requirements. It needed 4-wheel drive and a towing package. I just began playing these images. And from time to time, I would surf the internet looking for a pickup that I had in mind. And about first part of March, I stumbled across a Nissan Frontier. It was up in Benzonia, Michigan. It was 2 years old and had pretty low mileage, and they didn't want a whole lot of money for it. I talked to the guy, and he said, well, you can put money down. I said, well, I got to see it first. So I said, if it's still there in April when we get home, I'll be interested, and we'll come and look at it. So throughout the month, I visualized driving in this Frontier and really enjoying it, having sold my other 2 vehicles. So about a week after we got home from Florida, we drove up to Benzonia, looked at the pickup. It really was exactly what I had been picturing. We then spent a day looking at new ones and other options, and finally decided that we were going to buy that truck. So now I have to sell my other 2 vehicles. So last Tuesday, we drove to Benzonia, picked up the pickup, and when we got home, we sold the other 2 cars both in the same day. So all of these things came together very quickly, very easily, without a whole lot of effort. The effort was in the months preceding this, doing the mental picturing and visualization as if they were already completed. The motorcycle had been repossessed by the bank because George had a small mortgage or a small loan against it. And so we were able to acquire it from the bank at a very nice price. So the point of all of that is there are methods to create outcomes that sometimes we think of as impossible. And when we learn how to do this, it really helps to remove the anxiety and depression. Another way of dealing with these things are the use of homeopathy. There's a really nice Bach flower remedy called elm. Elm helps anytime you're feeling overwhelmed. So if you have too much going on, then elm is very beneficial. You just put 3 or 4 drops in your 20-ounce water bottle and you sip on that bottle of water all day. As soon as you put those drops in there, that whole bottle becomes medicine. Homeopathic gelsemium, highly beneficial for performance anxiety. So anybody who has trouble with public speaking or feeling embarrassed in a crowd, gelsemium is very beneficial for that. What's that?
Also taking tests.
Yes, for test taking, interview taking. We've found this to be highly beneficial. We recommend it to students all the time. And then homeopathic ignatia is a very good remedy for loss and grief. So if somebody has passed away, a pet or a family member or friend, And, grieving is a normal process, but if you get kind of stuck in that, things like Ignatia are highly, highly beneficial. And then meditation and relaxation. We're familiar with that from some of the training that we've had, but this is highly beneficial. So I'm going to close this talk tonight by a short meditation. So if you would join me, please inhale a deep breath and close your eyes and exhale slowly through your mouth. And inhale another deep breath and exhale slowly through your mouth. And inhale and feel the cool air enter your nose. And now exhale again. Now I want you to imagine that you're at an ideal place of relaxation. This can be someplace that you've been in the past. It can be someplace that you completely imagine, make up something new. If you enjoy the beach like I do and the sunshine, imagine that you're actually there, walking through the warm sand and feeling the sun on your body. If you enjoy fishing, use that. If you enjoy golfing, imagine you're on your favorite golf course, hitting a nice round of golf. If you enjoy other parts of nature, bicycling, being with your family, you might just enjoy reading a book. So imagine you're in your favorite chair and maybe you have a pet that you like laying on your lap. You imagine yourself in this ideal place of relaxation. And now if you've experienced any kind of anxiety, I want you to recall that anxiety. But as you do that, I want you to imagine that you're walking down a path. And as you walk down this path, you come to a fork in the path. And as you walk down the left-hand fork, I want you to imagine your life associated with this anxiety and feel the feelings that you may experience when you have anxiety or depression. And as you continue on down this path, you see many activities and behaviors associated with feeling anxiety, hesitation about going out into public, maybe not sleeping well, or maybe sleeping too much, maybe some sense of heart racing, difficulty breathing, stomach pains, constipation or diarrhea, physical symptoms. And now I want you to stop and imagine in front of you a big stop sign. And whenever you begin to feel feelings like this, imagine this big red stop sign in front of you and just say to yourself, no, stop. Analyze these feelings and analyze the thoughts associated with these feelings. And now imagine turning around and walking backward down the path to the fork in the road. And this time we're going to take the right fork in the road. And that right fork is associated with joy, happiness, abundance, great relationships, fun in your employment or in your retirement, recreation that makes you feel exceptionally good, perfect health, and plenty of money to do the things that you desire to do. And as you continue to walk down this path, imagine that you are at some age in the future where you are in your 80s or 90s or even older, and you're enjoying your perfect health and your relationships and the things that you're doing for retirement. And you realize that you have created those outcomes for yourself. And so spend some time imagining that you're actually there and talking to your friends and family and explaining to them how you are currently just really enjoying your life. You have very good health. You have plenty of money. You have friends and family around you. There's lots of things that you do for fun yet. You ride your bicycle, you go dancing, you might go skiing or golfing, playing tennis or pickleball, enjoying these things. And do it as if you are actually there, as if you have been doing these things for some time. And each night before you go to sleep, spend some time making mental images of your life the way you desire it to be. And then project yourself into the future as if you're actually doing those things many years in the future and enjoying this very abundant life. In a moment now, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes and to return to this place and this time, this Sunday evening. So now very gently and slowly open your eyes. Become aware of your surroundings. Well, thank you very much. And anybody have any questions?
I do. Where can we get, like, didn't know how to spell some of the things that you said. And do we just go on your site if we are interested in some of the homeopathy and things like that, that can prevent or deal with blood clots for COVID?
Yes.
Stuff like that.
The website is bobhutt.com.
bobhutt.com.
And there's 2 videos on there that show people how to actually make their own homeopathic remedy that will help eliminate the infection. It's not for prevention, it's for treatment if you do get the infection. And then there's a written description of what remedies to take for preventing the blood clots. And then also for people that have had COVID, sometimes for weeks and months afterwards, they're having symptoms. So sometimes fatigue and continued body aches. There's people that have shortness of breath, heart palpitations, all kinds of symptoms. And in that article, it also gives solutions to all of those things.
Okay, that article is on your website?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Got 2 T's.
Is that 2 T's or 1 T?
2.
2 T's.
2 T's. Okay. Thank you.
Trying to think of the elm. Elm was the Bach flower remedy you mentioned.
Elm, E-L-M.
Yeah. How do you spell that gelsinium?
G-E-L-S as in Sam, E-M-I-U-M. Gelsimium.
Okay.
And those things can be purchased at any health store, or they can be ordered through the Healing Center.
We're on eBay. We're on Amazon.
You mentioned Gaba was to slow down the brain for like ADD.
Gaba, G-A-B-A. Yeah, Gaba.
Gaba.
It's for
Good to help you sleep.
relaxation and kind of slow things down.
You have to have a deep dream.
For relaxation.
5-HTP is real good too.
5-HTP is actually it's the amino acid found in turkey. So after turkey Thanksgiving dinner, when people are drowsy, it's partially because of the tryptophan, which is found in turkey. All right. Anybody else have any questions? You're welcome to text me or email me if you have any questions. The email is bob.huttinga@gmail.com.
Oh,
And the text phone number is 989
we've got it upstairs.
287 1986.
That's on the website as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Barb. Appreciate it. A lot of great information, and yeah, it makes you interested to dive into it more and see what the benefits of some of the things that you mentioned tonight.